Several members of the organizations who led protests in Hong Kong, including Joshua Wong himself, have not only been arrested by Hong Kong authorities, but they have pled guilty in a court of law. Now, Joshua Wong and his fellow pro-democracy activists Ivan Lam and Angus Chow have pleaded guilty to all charges in their participation with riots outside Hong Kong's police headquarters last year, the ones that turned violent, and many people were hurt. So they've pled guilty. Now, they allege that they only pled guilty because they claim they would not receive a fair trial. So that aspect of it should be noted, that they don't feel that they would get a fair trial. Now, Joshua Wong was the leader of these protests, this attempted color revolution by the United States. He appeared in various U.S. media attempting to drum up support to sanction Hong Kong, to denounce the CCP, to all kinds of actions that would try to get sanctions against mainland China, etc. Some of those put through by Donald Trump, etc. He was very clearly photographed with U.S. officials in Hong Kong. He very obviously was a U.S. tool to create division and dissent within Hong Kong society. And we saw all manner of horrible activities, including these so-called pro-democracy protesters, even though Hong Kong is already a democracy, setting people on fire for speaking the mainland language. It's nuts. There's also footage of bomb factories being found where thousands of explosives were manufactured inside of educational institutions that were to be used on the police. There was unending amounts of violence where people whose only crime was saying that, mainland China is not evil were getting attacked by these so-called, umbrella protesters, or, whatever their particular gimmick was for this. And all of this was kicked off by the Fugitive Offenders Amendment Bill, which would allow people charged with a crime in the mainland, if they run to Hong Kong, they will be extradited back in order to face charges. Why that wasn't already a law to begin with, I have no idea. But that's the thing. People would commit crimes on the mainland, then run to Hong Kong, where the Chinese Communist Party government had no jurisdiction, which makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why would the federal government not have authority in a section of its own country? But I digress. So this happened after a famous situation where a man killed I believe it was his girlfriend at the time, and then fled the country, and they wanted him to be extradited back to face justice for the murder. These people felt that this was the mainland China forcing its authority on Hong Kong, which is China. Like I said, it makes no sense why this wasn't already a law to begin with. Why would you let someone indicted for a crime hide in your own country without having a jurisdiction to have them extradited? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. For this, I directly blame the one country, two systems nonsense policy. Okay, so you're going to have China, you're going to have quote-unquote socialism in one and capitalism in the other. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. It serves literally only to protect the bourgeoisie that already exists inside of Hong Kong, to keep it as such an important financial sector for Asia. Because that's socialism, right? Regardless, giving the bourgeoisie literally their own piece of country, and then giving them not only that, but giving them a free hand to be able to do essentially whatever it is they want without even ability of being held accountable for any crimes that they commit is completely nonsensical. What's important about this is that it created a sense of division. Hong Kong and there's a general feeling that they are superior to the mainland people. We are not subject to their laws because they are not the same as us. We are different, we are special, we have our own laws, we're separate, etc. And this is a very much a bourgeois attitude, largely perpetuated by the bourgeoisie, which is why you're supposed to get rid of the bourgeoisie. So you have this come on for, however many decades. So they start feeling like they're something separate from the mainland because you're literally making them something separate from the mainland. And then that mentality will eventually get into the population and it will feel that it is superior or different. That's where these so-called pro-democracy protesters actually come from. That's why it's there, because of this ridiculous one country, two systems policy. So China really brought it on itself by doing this. Of course, this was emboldened and funded by the United States, but that division would never have been there had they not created that division themselves. So they're going to have to clean up their own mess in this situation, and a lot of innocent people got hurt because of it. I mean, how many times did you see people who disagreed with the protesters, or people whose only crime was speaking the mainland language getting attacked by these, so-called protesters? They came out with astronomical amounts of violence against the government, and even international organizations applauded the Hong Kong police for being as non-lethal as they were. I mean, the protesters, they loved to scream about how bad the Hong Kong police was during that time, but in fact, it was incredibly peaceful and restrained. Far more than anything we've seen in any other countries, say, I don't know, the United States, where police murder is a daily occurrence. But I digress. So, the leader of these protests has pled guilty, and he's going to go to jail. Well, that's the kind of thing that happens. And he probably thought his CIA masters were going to take care of him. I mean, at one time I heard he was trying to leave Hong Kong and go to the U.S. He'd been offered a scholarship. I believe it was Harvard. But it's good to know that the person who was responsible for all this, at least the leadership, the person in the leadership position which made it as bad as it was, is going to have to face justice, whether you question that justice or not. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.